Hello, and welcome to this session on understanding Kanban software development. In the previous session, we have acquainted ourselves with the concept of Kanban. In this module, we will learn about the application of Kanban in product development. So let's get started. Kanban emphasizes just-in-time, or JIT, delivery, while avoiding overloading developers. Kanban makes use of the pull principle for creating task queues. The developers, based on the availability of capacity, pull tasks from the queue, which are displayed using visual aids. Kanban can be divided into two broad categories. That is, Kanban as a visual management process and the Kanban method, which can be defined as incremental evolutionary process management. But where does this approach of Kanban stem from? The roots of Kanban can be traced to three core philosophies. The first philosophy states, start with what you know. Kanban does not define any particular set of policies or rules to follow. There is no such thing as a Kanban software development process or Kanban project management. Thus, adopting Kanban means understanding and evolving the current process, what you know, by adopting the core principles defined in Kanban. The next philosophy says, agree to pursue incremental evolutionary change. It means that the organization needs to understand the gravity of resistance to change. Any change brought about in a sweeping manner may or may not have the desired outcome. Therefore, the organizations and teams implementing Kanban must pursue small, incremental, and evolutionary change. The third and final philosophy talks about respecting the current process, roles, responsibilities, and titles. In order to minimize the risk that the organization faces from resistance to change, it must first analyze the current process. It is likely that the organization can identify a few elements and components of the existing system to preserve and incorporate into the new desired state or change. By identifying and respecting the roles, responsibilities, and titles from the current process, the organization can, as a whole, overcome the initial resistance and fear of change and help individuals realize the benefits of adopting this methodology. The next topic we will learn about is the list of Kanban principles. Kanban is designed with the aim of reducing idle time in a production process. The Kanban system, implemented as a scheduling system, determines what the process needs and when it needs it. This process makes use of visual aids as a signaling system to determine the future course of action. It is associated with the design of pull systems and the concept of delivering just-in-time goods. By definition, a pull system is a manufacturing process based entirely on customer demand. The concept defines the process such that the component of the final product is built in line with components from other departments, to build the final product as per the expectations of the customer. Because the emphasis is on delivering based on customer requirements, in turn, market requirements, the overall process becomes leaner due to reduction in inventory carrying cost. Kanban identifies 5 core principles that need to be present in each successful implementation. Let's look at each of them one by one. The first one is visualization. A Kanban board is a popular tool used to implement the Kanban methodology and to increase productivity. The board helps the team organize its work with the use of cards, or Kanban, each representing a different feature and placed on the board. It aids in visualization, control, and optimization of workflow. Kanban boards are flexible and can be customized to match the workflow and the associated needs. Although many designs exist for a Kanban board, the simplest form exhibits 3 columns: to do, in progress, and done. However, with the evolution and adoption of the lean Kanban methodology, the Kanban board consists of backlog, ready, coding, testing, approval, and done. These boards can be customized to meet each organization's unique requirements. Each task moves from one column to the next per the described flow of the associated component in the system. The key principle is the visibility of the workflow, and policies that are in place. This practice helps improve communication, predictability, and problem resolution. The second principle is limiting work in progress, or WIP. This principle recommends the use of buffers to smooth out variability in the amount of effort required to complete a task. The aim is to avoid overloading or creating unnecessary burden on the system. The critical element is the limitation of pulling a new task based only on the available capacity of the system, and, therefore, the total work remains in the predetermined WIP limit. This requires the developers to keep the process running smoothly. Allowing too many tasks to remain in WIP must be avoided. A new task can only be pulled when the worker finishes his or her current task. The next principle is managing workflow. To manage workflow, each task must be monitored and reported. Two aspects, the speed of the movement and the smoothness of the movement, are of interest. Ideally, the movement should be both fast and smooth. Fast movement creates quick value, and smoothness minimizes the cost of delay and makes the process more predictable. Instead of working on multiple tasks in large batches, developers following Kanban divide the work into smaller chunks, which enables them to complete the task faster and facilitate better workflow. The fourth principle is making process policies explicit. The set of policies implemented by management have a bearing on the process. Until the tools of software development are made explicit, it becomes increasingly difficult to discuss and improve them. Without an explicit understanding of the policies and how they affect the behavior of the processes, it is difficult to have consensus on improvement suggestions. Therefore, making process policies explicit enables teams to have a rational and objective discussion regarding policy improvements and modifications. This acts as a key enabler of collaborative change. The last principle is improve collaboratively. Based on the team's shared understanding of the theories regarding the work, the workflow, the process, and the risks involved, it becomes more likely that the team will build a shared understanding of each problem and suggest improvements that can be agreed on. The use of models such as study of bottlenecks, waste elimination, and reduction of variation can be used to make predictions regarding the effect of the change. The output can be compared to the expected outcome based on the model, and the variation can be assessed. This process of evaluating an empirical observation with a model, suggesting an intervention, and predicting the output based on the model, and the subsequent comparison of the actual output to the expected output, forms the fundamentals of empirical and scientific analysis, and therefore directly contributes to improving the organization as a whole. Now we will learn about the concept of pull and push systems. The difference between the pull and push systems is that pull means make to order, whereas push means make to stock. A push system computes the production schedule at all levels based on the forecast of sales. Once a component is produced, sub-assemblies are pushed to the next level, whether the need exists or not. That is, the components are pushed into the system. In an environment in which substantial variations of sales are anticipated, the push system has a significant advantage. In a pull system, production happens at one level only, when it is initiated by a request from the higher level. That is, the components are literally pulled into the system. A pull system substantially reduces inventory carrying costs and is accompanied by additional advantages, such as improvements in product and process quality. However, a pull system may result in slow responses to changes in demand, and it may overlook predicted demand patterns. Now we will learn about the Kanban practices. Even though Kanban does not prescribe any meetings, teams working on a common goal will benefit from well-defined and disciplined meetings because they improve communication and understanding both from a micro and macro perspective. The important part of any executive meeting is to identify hurdles and to offer solutions to overcome them. Therefore, the daily stand-up meeting can be used for Kanban as well as for Scrum. Instead of adopting the typical daily stand-up, Kanban teams can redesign the stand-up to suit their needs and can ask questions such as, what are the hurdles and roadblocks faced while performing each task? Is there any task that requires immediate attention, not necessarily in the order of priority? What is the action plan between now and the next meeting? Is any additional resource required in completing pending tasks? Value stream mapping is the first step in implementing Kanban. Simply put, a value stream is a list of steps taken to create value, both for the customer and the team. The value stream must be as close to reality as possible, and only as detailed as deemed necessary to visualize and understand the workflow. It should be understood that as the understanding of the process and the context changes, so will the value stream. Organizations or teams can build value streams by following a set of simple, yet concrete steps. The next practice we will discuss is define the start and end point for control. Clear articulation becomes necessary to decide where to start and end the process visualization. The organization must accurately describe the current value stream and clearly articulate the desired value stream for the product cycle. It is important to handle this at an early stage because any errors early on can result in failure. At this stage, the intention is to map the current process and not to plan improvements. The next practice is work item types. After identifying the starting point in the value stream, the next step is to identify the type of work that arrives at that point, and also any others that may exist within the workflow. Any development-centric work is factored at this stage. Typically, work items can include requirements, features, bugs, user stories, use cases, change requests, maintenance, improvements. The fourth practice is drawing a card wall. Kanban recommends modeling the work and not the workers. A card wall typically portrays activities rather than detailed functions. After thoroughly understanding the workflow, the next step is to draw columns representing activities and the order in which they are performed, while clearly identifying tasks that are in progress and tasks that are completed. The next point is demand analysis. Using historical data, if available and relevant, and quantitative empirical techniques, teams need to identify the demand for each of the identified work items. Work items tend to display patterns over time. This needs to be thoroughly understood to design a system that can be adjusted to keep up with new demands and different types of work items. Let's look at another practice involving allocating work based on capacity. The next step is to determine work capacity and allocate work based on the capacity of the Kanban system. The allocation of work should be aligned with the risk profile. Relative priorities can be set for each work item type. Establish a policy for how much of the development team's availability will be used for each work item type at any time. It is useful to set an allocation by work item type to provide clarity about which kinds of work the team is spending time developing. It sets up an agreement between the development team and management about how their resources are best spent. And finally, we will look at anatomy of a work item card. Each work item card represents a unique and discrete component of customer-valued work. The information relayed through these work cards is used to facilitate the pull system, and therefore, This makes their design extremely important. The design may vary based on the classification of the work item. The aim is to provide enough information to enable informed decision-making without the manager's direction. This will empower team members to make informed decisions and encourage transparency of process, objectives, and project goals. And with this, we've come to the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed learning with us. Thank you for watching.